Thursday morning to you. Welcome to Matthew study number 51. This is Mark Pierce of Church Requel. You can find us at churchrequel.com as well as churchrequel.org. And we're here today to continue our Matthew Bible study, and I promise we're going to move right along today. We've done enough preliminary work in leading us up to this transitional point, so let's get right into it today, shall we? If you have your Bible, open it to Matthew chapter 4, and we'll begin with verse 18 and read through to verse 22. While walking by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Well, here we have one of the last sections of discourse, actually the next to the last section, I should say, of narrative before we get into Jesus' great discourse on the Sermon on the Mount. Matthew is clearly moving his gospel message, his good news of Jesus Christ, into a place where he wants us to make sure that there is this setting where four disciples, four Christ followers, Peter and Andrew, and then also we see here James and John are among the audience of who Jesus is going to be teaching in the Sermon on the Mount. Now, let's just give a little bit of description or background to this narrative passage. Walking by the Sea of Galilee. Matthew uses the word sea. We get to the Gospel of Luke, and Luke simply calls it a lake. And frankly, from a world perspective, Luke is probably a little bit more accurate. The Sea of Galilee, if you will, is a lake that is about 13 miles long and 6 miles wide at its widest. Some people say maybe as wide as 8 miles. But you get the idea. This is not a really big body of water. It's characterized by being about 680 feet below sea level. It's one of the lowest places on Earth where the water hasn't come up any further. And as we talked about last week, this is one of the most fertile areas that there is. I mean, there's hardly any area on Galilee or on either side of the Sea of Galilee that is not tilled for farming land. Well, the lake itself is also very fertile. At this point in time, it's well known to be a great place to go fishing. Josephus, who is the major historian that we look to extra biblically, tells us that at that time the Sea of Galilee would not be unusual to have as many as 200 fishing boats on any given day. That was how good the fishing there was. We see an introduction here to two different sets of brothers. We have the brothers of Simon and Andrew. And then we also have the brothers of James and John, known as the sons of Zebedee. Now, interestingly, both sets of brothers are involved in the fishing trade. And in fact, later on in some of the other Gospels, we read that Peter was a bit of a partner in the Zebedee family, so that somehow all of these people were related in one way or the other through business. I don't want to mean that they were related family-wise, but they clearly knew each other and worked together in some fashion before they became followers or disciples of Jesus. Now, we get this idea here that they were casting a net into the sea, and then Matthew gives us the explanation that they were fishermen. Well, again, according to the historical documents at the time, there were 3 different ways that one could go fishing. Certainly the common way that you and I think of today as using a line was certainly used then as well. But from a commercial standpoint, this fishing was so good that they could fish with nets, and there were 2 other ways of fishing with nets that worked well in the Sea of Galilee. One is, and we see this description here with Simon and Andrew, they were casting a net into the sea. Well, the actual word here for net in the original language is a round throwing thing. The first part of the word is kind of a round or about, and then something that would be ballow or thrown. And so we have this picture of a round net that would be weighted on the ends that they could literally, and this took quite a bit of skill, they could cast out from the shore or from very near the shore and then gather in the net and be able to catch fish that way. The third way of fishing was literally there would be 2 boats that would take a net between them and literally go through. As they would row, they would then collect all the fish that they could catch in a net. That would be one of the 3 ways. And here we see the second way being talked about in terms at least of Simon and Andrew. Then we also see the introduction, of course, to James and John, the sons of Zebedee. They are mending their nets. They're not in the process of fishing at that point in time, but we don't know whether they were fishing or mending the net that they threw out or the kind of net that they would pull behind the boat. Now, a couple of things that we pick up from this passage, and we're not going to get it all done today or probably even tomorrow, but just some things I think that are significant. First of all, we note that Jesus said, "Come, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." There is this aspect that, at least here, this is initiated by Jesus. Jesus calls men and women to him, and he extends that invitation for us to follow. We must not get the idea from the word follow that it means anything short of being a full disciple. It doesn't mean just walking behind someone. In the day and age that they lived here, it would be common for a rabbi to have followers, to have disciples. These would be younger people who would imitate the way of the master. And so if someone were to follow a master, he would be imitating him. He would be following after the things that the master would do. What is very unusual about this situation is that it was typical for students or wannabe students of a famous rabbi to go to that rabbi and to say, "Hey, can I be your student?" And there would be certain tests that would be given, test of memory and test of interpretation, and actually students would have to qualify. It would be kind of like being able to get into Harvard. So, it's the idea that not everybody was cut out to be a disciple of a great master. It was unusual, in fact, perhaps unheard of, for a master, a rabbi, a teacher, to walk up to a student and to say, "Come, follow me." We're going to talk more about that tomorrow, but before we get off of this, Jesus extends this invitation to you and to me as well, for us to come and follow him. Isn't that great news today? I can't wait to talk more to you, so please come back and listen again tomorrow morning. Have a great day.